Does this sound familiar? You're in the middle of 20 plus fantasy series. You don't want to quite continue any of them, or the next book in the series you really want to read is not quite out yet. But every fantasy book you grab from your shelf is starting a new series, and you really don't want to commit to a whole new chunky situation quite yet. No worries, I dug into my shelves, literally into the depths of it, and found a couple of quick reads that are all standalones that you can read within a day or two, maybe 3, and that are from a wide variety of subgenres. So I hope you'll definitely find something that you like. Hi friends, Fina here from Fina Reads. Welcome and welcome back to my channel. Today I want to share with you 10 fantasy, specifically fantasy standalones that you can read rather quickly while you're waiting on certain books to come out shortly. And without a huge commitment to a whole new series. That seems to be a struggle with fantasy in particular. Sci-fi, thriller, horror, standalones left and right. But with fantasy, it gets a bit trickier. All right, in no particular order, I want to start with Birds of Paradise by Oliver K. Langmead. This is, I believe, more a magical realism book. That is a subgenre I'm not super familiar with, but I believe that's what it falls under. We are in today's world. We're following Adam, the Adam from the Bible, as he is collecting plants that are popping up left and right that originate in Garden Eden. They have magical properties, and for that reason, he doesn't want humanity to get their hands on them. He is meeting up with some of his friends from Garden Eden that can shapeshift into birds to collect all of these things. Incredibly wholesome. And I'm telling you, I'm usually not an emotional person when it comes to reading books, but tears at the end. Tears. Even though I kind of saw this ending coming, I definitely got emotional at the end. If that story doesn't pull on your heartstrings, even if you have nothing to do with Christianity or have no clue about what's going on in the Bible, it is just a very human story. The next book is a mix of funny and also important storyline, and that is Perilous Times by Thomas D. Lee. That is using a very classical fantasy trope of King Arthur and Knights of the Round Table and mixing it up a bit. And I thought that part of it was incredibly well done and interesting, and also very unique. I don't think I've read something like this before at all. Essentially, we are in the future, world is on the brink of collapse, air is dirty, all those kind of things. And we have Sir Kay being pulled out of his slumber because Britain is in peril and it needs a knight in shining armor. Snarky, witty, very important right now because it's tackling the topic of climate change and pollution and whatnot in a rather entertaining manner. Next up, I'm counting this as one book because they're from the same author. This is Women's LitFic. I don't know if that's correct. Both books include female MCs that are going through a really crappy situation, and with the use of supernatural elements, they're getting through those situations and coming out at the end with a better life. The difference here is Cackle is with witches, Such Sharp Teeth is with werewolves. Super fun to read, really quick reads, very motivating and hope promoting, both great small town type settings, both fantastic MCs with very relatable problems. Well, I mean, except for the supernatural part. And the supernatural part is handled very well. The next one is also multiple books of the same author that I count as one. So let's talk about the books. First of all, Brandon Sanderson is the author that I'm talking about. And in particular, I'm talking about 3 of his 4 secret project books that he released last year. Was it already last year? It was not this year, right? It was last year. In particular, Tress of the Emerald Seed, Yumi and the Nightmare Painter, and The Frugal Wizard's Handbook for Surviving Medieval England. The first 2 are technically part of the Cosmere, but I can tell you I have never read a book from the Cosmere other than those 2, and I loved those 2. I never had a situation where it's like, I don't understand. Tress is a more fantastical, whimsical fantasy story. The Wizard's Handbook with a very long title is a more snarky, ridiculous, portal type fantasy. This is the one that is not in the Cosmere, and Yumi and the Nightmare Painter is, I'm not quite sure what you would throw it under. It's very unique. Let's put it that way. You catch ghosts by painting something for them. That is the most horrible explanation for this book, I think. But all three very entertaining, very fast reads, and also surprisingly, while the tone is similar across because it's the same author and you can see that, the stories themselves are all rather unique. As a side note, if you like these recommendations, if you like this type of video, please don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button. It really helps out the channel. Thank you. Next up, a recent release, indie published, and that's Charles McGarry's Nomad's Crucible, which is a sci-fantasy. And I'm saying that because the main character reminds me of the Mandalorian. Not just because he's driving a hoverbike, but just his whole demeanor fits that TV show a lot. So if you like that, that might actually be a good read for you. But other than that, it has nothing to do with The Mandalorian or anything Star Wars related. It actually comes with a whole lot of different, rather unique plot points that together make an incredibly imaginative story. The main character is an assassin without remorse. He just takes jobs, takes care of them, and then goes to the next one. But since he is not dumb, he starts to question some of the motives of the person that is giving him the jobs and is wondering, is this all right, what I'm doing here? Something is off. You are meeting a lot of fantastic side characters, wholesome families, very interesting villains. I really like the villain concept in particular in this book. If you like literary fiction, the next pick, The Four Profound Reeves by R.B. Lamberg, might be interesting for you. Don't let this short book fool you. It is something that you probably want to read in a little bit slower manner. You can still read it in a day, but I'm saying like this is 120 pages, well, 170 pages, and you don't want to read it in 2 hours. That's what I mean with that. This book comes with a lot of great things. Desert setting, wise old woman, whimsical magical elements, gods, and a story about gender identity and learning who you even are. Very profound. Very, very good read. I have another indie book for you, this time a portal fantasy, The Legend of Blackjack by A.R. Witham. This is a standalone in the Keymark world. He just published the first book in a series that plays in the same world with a different character from the book, but you can read this completely on its own. You don't have to read the series. Vice versa, you also don't have to read the standalone to read his series. But we're talking about standalones here. The Legend of Blackjack is about Jack, surprise, surprise, who just lives in regular human world and gets pulled into a Keymark on his 14th birthday. And everybody in Keymark is expecting the most ridiculous things from him. And he's like, I'm just a boy. What, where, when? You have a training school setting, which is really cool. And in general, this book is full of swashbuckling adventures, full of amazing characters, friends, as well as villains. And while it's generally a little bit of a younger read, there are some dark moments in there that keep you guessing and hoping till the very end. In the romance fantasy subgenre category, I'll put A Taste of Gold and Iron, which is a book that has been out for 2 or 3 years already that I also never hear talked about on BookTube. Well, we're changing this now. A Taste of Gold and Iron is about a prince and his servant that uncover a court scheme and kind of get in trouble because of that. But to be very fair, the magical elements are very light in here. The whole political intrigue and court maneuvering is actually more of a side story. The important part are the prince and his servant and their relationship. It's a very character-driven book, and it has an incredible slow burn romance at the heart of it. And I find that's really what this book is about and what makes this book shine. So while it falls under the fantasy category, I find the romance is actually a much more important aspect of this book. The 9th book that I want to recommend is The Magic Circle by Barry Ryerson, another more sci-fantasy. It's set in today's world, more post-apocalyptic. We are after a big war that devastated the world. You have like bubbles around your cities, it's hard to breathe, yada yada yada. And all of a sudden, individual people experience magical abilities. But they are not the only ones that notice those. So they get kidnapped and put into a let's say program, because I don't want to spoil it. Again, a lot of witty, snarky characters, very fast paced, very enjoyable read, high stakes story, and also a lot of representation, which I thought was very refreshing. And the last standalone that I want to recommend is not a children's book, even if the cover might say something like that. And even though in Germany there's actually a children's TV show with this character as the main part that I loved when I was a child, and that is the 13.5 Lives of Captain Bluebear. I don't know if that is a typical thing in the US as well, but in Germany, captains or people who sail the sea are known for telling the most ridiculous stories. And that's exactly what this book is. It's 13.5 short stories of Captain Bluebear and his ridiculous journeys. It is hilarious, it's definitely grown up, and it's just a lot of fun. If you look this up, it looks like it's part of a long series. It is set in the same world as all the other books in that series if you look on Goodreads, but it is a complete standalone. Also, just in case this helps, it has the most beautiful illustrations in here that I believe are even drawn by the author of the book. All right, 10 books / authors. I think technically it was more than 10 books that you have in this list. But I hope there is something in here that you can read while waiting for the big one or any other book, or while just not wanting to start another big series. If you check out my channel, there are 2 or 3 books that I have more detailed reviews for, so feel free to subscribe. And if you just want to check out another video of mine, take a look at this one over here. And then I hope I'll see you with my next video. Till then, have an amazing rest of your day.